Welcome to Self-Perfected.
All right.
Hey, birdies.
We should get
So
like
if you're watching
strobe
this,
lights and stuff.
so if you're watching this, you probably just saw our new intro, yeah?
Oh yeah.
And
Perhaps.
you're welcome. So
Unless we changed our mind
Yeah,
about
you
it.
better
and
get
thank you,
hyped.
and thank you to Jesus.
Jesus.
Oh, sorry, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. We have our own Jesus. So he did that intro. That was pretty good. I'm assuming you just saw it if Drake did his job properly.
You better put it in now.
We'll find
Well,
out.
actually, that would be like now people would be guessing. Like, what is the intro? You know,
People are like, what?
We'll put it
I
at
didn't hear the
we'll
intro.
put it at
like a
the end.
90s theme song. You know, where
Put it
it's
in
like,
somewhere randomly in the episode.
They'll replay it and be like, what did I miss?
imagine if
Oh,
this.
also, do you have
Well,
that thing that pops up that goes like, it's like the click, the subscribe
Oh, yeah.
thing?
Yeah,
Get that
well,
to
I
Drake
don't know
too.
how to add that, but Jesus does, and so
No,
I'll,
unsubscribe just so when that comes up, you can hit subscribe.
Yeah.
yeah.
So go ahead and hit that like button, that subscribe button.
Hit that unsubscribe button.
You know, all we do is we just do this for the money, for the fame, for the followers, the
For
influence.
the-
So we got to grow that
For the
follower
ad
base.
revenue.
Yeah.
That's how I find my meaning in life is how many followers I have. See, how
That's
funny would
really
it be
cool.
if we had like a TV show intro where they're like featuring Asif and he like walks in the door and it shows like the B-roll of Asif. Like from
Yeah,
the
or it's like
different
I'm
episodes.
walking out the door and I'm like, you know, like those shots from like the 90s, how they
And
would
then
do
you got
those
Cameron
intros,
like shooting his gun and he's like killing a hog. on
Oh,
his
yeah.
property.
And then takes off his sunglasses.
Or no,
like,
yeah, like there's like a bird and I like blast it into oblivion and then I'm like,
there it is.
He like kicks off his Crocs. And then like with the guest appearance from Jess and Max and Seneca.
oh yeah, you
That'd be
see Maylat coming in the room. Or you see just her like leaving the room with a tray or something.
she's like walking out like with like cups or whatever. Then she turns. That's so good.
Max looks up and he's like doing calculations. He's like measuring something.
Seneca has like two chickens in two hands.
He's like throwing a chicken in the air. Yeah.
That's
So-
basically their life.
That's pretty much our lives, yeah.
Katie's holding
So-
vacation bread.
How was y'all's weekend? Yeah, Vacation.
Oh,
Vacation.
Kasha.
amazing.
I only said it that way because you said it that way. I don't say it that way.
Got ya.
I just want to clear the record, guys. Like
No,
I
I'm
don't
gonna
say
clear the
vacation.
record. I was testing my brainwashing skills and it worked, dude. Got him.
Aisha?
Okasha.
Fakasha.
No, I
Like
just
the
didn't know
bread?
that.
That should be like the
Yeah,
new
that's
saying.
right.
Like
Exactly.
that should be like the new saying where you're like vacation, vakasha.
That's great.
Wow. Wow.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So
my weekend-
how was y'all's weekend?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we had a barbecue. We had a lot of people out here.
I saw that. I saw that
Yeah.
Traeger.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, it's not a Traeger.
Firing up that.
Don't get
Oh,
carried
I thought-
away. It's
I
not
thought you had a
a,
Traeger.
this is what we call a transition grill. Traegers are like way up there. This is like a medium to a little bit higher quality. It's basically
I mean,
like
it looked exactly like one.
Wait,
yeah,
what the
yeah.
fuck are you guys talking about?
Okay. There's these Traeger grills,
Grills.
and you can connect them with Wi-Fi or with Bluetooth. So it's like perfect. Now I see why you would want that.
Wait.
That was
Ah,
like
damn
having
it.
to add these wood
Did you
pellets.
say trigger whales or grill?
I didn't know. See, I didn't get the Wi-Fi Bluetooth. I was just like, why do I need that? I don't need to like check it when
Yeah.
I'm out, but maybe there's a reason for it.
Yeah, because it cooks it perfectly.
So how would you use the Wi-Fi?
I have to buy a Bluetooth.
Dude, 5G, bro. You know how they like 5G
Anybody-
will fry your brain.
the
It'll also
5G
fry
cooks
your
your
steak.
food. Oh my god.
The 5G.
So it's like
cooks
you have
it.
the flames and then you have the 5G just
Hey, Asif,
Mhm.
you're getting married at some point soon, right? You're like your wedding and all that. I
me?
think. Yeah. Aren't you guys doing a wedding?
You're gonna bring
somewhere?
our Traeger grill.
No. Yeah.
One of you will, Drake, somebody. Okay, so I'm just throwing it out there. If you guys want to use the Traeger grill, just let me know if you want to put that on your registry because I might have to upgrade to the Wi-Fi. So
So you're gonna give me yours.
But then you're not gonna
Yes,
have a
okay.
Wi-Fi one.
the used one.
I'll
Yeah.
get married for that. Yeah.
I think they're magnetic, so you can just stick your phone to it. I think it'll work that
I'll
way.
have a wedding.
You should have a
What was I
wedding
gonna
just for that
say?
reason.
I'll turn on my 5G. I'll turn
When
on
you
my
guys-
5G, put a bunch of phones to it, and boom, there you go. Then-
When
then
you
I'll
guys
cook
come
the
down in
burgers.
November, I'm gonna fire up that Traeger and smoke a brisket.
Ooh,
Yeah, smoke a brisket.
yeah.
There you
Smoke a
go.
brisket.
I'll smoke a brisket together.
So you guys had a barbecue? What
Yeah.
did y'all do?
We had a bunch of
I love smoking good.
what did we do? Oh, so our neighbors, the ones who have the cows and the pigs. We just go to them. So we got some burgers, some sausage, something. It was amazing. That was good. And then we got a bunch of vegetables too. And then yeah, so that was fun. And then we played some games. We were playing some card games or something and Catan, and it was just like it was great. And then we usually tend to stay up till like at least 3 a.m. pretty much every time. And just talking about stuff that matters. And then that was cool. And then Sunday, oh wow, I forgot all this stuff I did this weekend. Time blurs when you're having fun. So there was this Stop the Mandate rally at our Capitol. And so I went down there. I was like, hey, I want to talk to these people. Like, let's see, do they have a real plan or do they just want to sit there with signs? And I got connected to some really cool people. I mean, there's still plenty of people with the signs that just think that's the answer, but
Just
there was
showing
enough
up,
of
yeah.
them. Yeah, there's enough of them that were like, hey, no, you should get involved with this community. Oh, and the next weekend we have this event, and they're like much more about taking action in like the political arena. I was like, cool, you sound like my kind of people. So so that was really fun. And then they invited us to this event yesterday. Now that was interesting. They were more like the conspiracy Q people. But hey, I still found a few cool ones that were like, hey, I have a job and I do not want to get the mandated stuff. What do I do though? Because I have a kid and like I need some other way to make money, which doesn't require me to have this mandate. I was like,
And if it could be somehow connected to educating my child, that would be ideal.
And if it could like be aligned with like purpose, I was like,
If
hey,
I could hang out with
let's get
people that
lunch this
have
week.
Traeger grills, that have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth.
And if there were 13, but no more than 13 principals involved with it, then that would just be the ideal number.
Yeah. So that was cool. So I met 2 of them that I'm gonna have lunch with this week. So
Yeah. You should
That's
just
really
carry
cool.
your Traeger grill around with you and just be like,
hey, this was fascinating though. I had this like really interesting insight because it's like you get the mainstream people that are like, I believe everything the news tells me. Yes, you know, this is all true. And then you get the other extreme where they're like, everything on the media is a lie and Trump is here to actually blah, 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 and this and that, and there's aliens and all. I'm like, whoa, buddy. And then, but they're also like, yeah, but like God told me to come to this meeting today. And so they're like these 2 extremes of like not taking self-responsibility. And I'm sitting in this group and good. So I had Jess came with me, Pedro, Seth, Eric, we were all there, but we all got split into different groups. So it was perfect. And I was just like, wow, even these people that are actually really questioning the system are still so led astray. So it was like this really fascinating moment of like a reality check where we're the only people talking about this stuff. But it's cool. You find a subset of each group that's open to it, and then you just talk to them, and you just go one at a time, and then you know it keeps growing.
yeah.
That's really cool. That's really
This
cool.
makes sense though. That's why you do the one-on-one.
Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
cool. So you had a little exciting weekend. That's fun.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
just
'cause
what
I
we
was
do. Just
contemplating.
normal stuff.
So we were in this group setting though, and they're like, yeah, but like, you know, the Lord wants me to do that. They're like all like talking shit about the elite. Like, yeah, they're just trying to control everyone. Like we're all slaves and stuff. But over here, like Jesus is my Lord, and like I worship him. I'm like,
I am his servant. And you're like,
yeah, and I'm just like, is this the time and place to just question everybody? It reminded me of Bernard's blogs when he talks about him being in the spiritual groups, and they would like talk about all these gifts and stuff, and then he would like question them, and then they would like get really nasty towards him. So I was like, winning here is not trying to convince them on the spot because they're not going to process what I'm saying. Winning here is just sharing the vision and then getting the right ones to come to lunch with me.
okay. It's the one-on-one. Exactly. It just shows you like the group thing. It'll attract people, but you're going to get a mixture of different levels. And not always has to go to that one-on-one at the end of the day.
We found some
That's
real
fascinating.
Yeah.
That is fascinating.
So
You know, it's almost like, you know what it is? It's those religious people are using the reverse law of attraction. maybe it's a double reverse law. Well, because think about it, they're praying for a Lord and a Savior. So what are they attracting?
Ooh, Klaus
A
Schwab.
Lord and a Savior.
Yeah.
Well,
Control.
not a
Red
savior.
pills, spells.
Damn, dude.
Yeah. What about you, Asif? What'd you do?
Oh,
Oh,
dude.
you had an exciting weekend too. I know about it because I watch all of everyone's Facebook
Did you
stories.
or did you not drive the Ferrari?
Definitely. Oh, he's not letting anybody drive it.
Okay.
Took a rip in it. So he has like this. He has a radar detector in it, right? And I'm like, what does that do? And he's like, it detects when there's other officers around who have their speed
Yeah.
trap on.
Have you ever seen one of those? I haven't seen one of those since I was a kid, man.
I
It'd
heard
always be
about
like
it.
my dad's friend who had like an Acura NSX or a Mitsubishi Spider or whatever, it'd be like they have one of these things in it. Yeah.
Right. So he like kilometers, 50 kilometers is probably like 30-ish miles, I think.
Yeah.
And kind of like in the town. So there's like the 50 kilometers. So he's taking it for a spin. It was hilarious. It was like one of my couple first interactions. Rob, Leah's husband. So we went down to their beach house. So Leah's parents, they have a really nice beach house. So we went down there and it was just beautiful. It was like you wake up in the morning and their backyard, the sun, it gets the entire sunlight, right? So it has the east all the way to the west, right? And it's on the lake. They have a private section of the beach, right? That section off just for them. And one night Rob dug just a pit in the sand and we had a fire there. It's just like, it was really cool. But in the Ferrari, he was talking about how he traded in his Lamborghini to get the Ferrari. And the Ferrari is the fastest production car available,
Really?
other than the Tesla.
Oh,
Because
wow.
the Tesla has the motor like kind of like on the wheels, so that it doesn't lose any of the energy towards the drivetrain and all these things, because it's a engine. So he said it's a hybrid. He's like, I was really attracted to the hybrid. It's the fastest production car, and he was making this joke about, he's like, I don't get it why these guys, they buy these nice cars and they don't drive them because they don't want to put mileage on it. He's like, that's like marrying a A-class hot model and then not fucking with to keep her tight for the next guy. I'm like, that's hilarious.
Seriously, it's like I'm planning on selling
Analogy.
this.
That was like spot on. And so he kind of like drives down the 50, just kind of taking his time, and he gets to the end of this really long road. And then he turns around. He's like, okay, no cups. And he turns around on it and he starts ripping it. Like literally it goes 0 to 100 or 0 to 60 in like 2.6 seconds or something like that. And it's just like, and we're going like 150. And it's just like this older gentleman. He's just like paddle shifter. Like, just ripping it, just chilling. Right.
Yeah.
And so it was a lot of fun. That was like when I woke up in the morning. So we got there at like midnight. But of course, when you get there at midnight, you got Rob being like, hey, welcome, right? They have this massive home theater. Like I saw home theaters before, right? But not with speakers that are as tall as me. Like literally like massive, entirely soundproofed. And in the theater room, if he doesn't want to watch the projector, in the ceiling, there's a TV that falls down, massive TV that falls down.
That's hilarious.
Really cool. It's really cool.
It's like, I just want to watch the news. And it's like, that's cool. I never seen that before. That's pretty cool.
The sauna up there. It was actually really interesting because he was mentioning the things that you think you want, but you don't want. You don't use it. And he had one of these. So you go out in the back and there's like a massive balcony. And he has one of those fire pits that are kind of like built up as stone going across there. And it's just like a thin.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's like, we never use it. We never use it. He's like, that's something that you really don't need.
It'd be more like if you had a hotel, it would look cool. But like you're not going to use it on a practical basis, like as a family or something.
Exactly.
Like, that makes sense to me. Yeah.
He was saying the same thing about the hot tub. So if you go to their top floor and you walk, like there's their lower level, their regular, like you enter the home. I don't even know how to describe it.
Did you guys use the hot tub?
No. And that was the thing he was saying is like, you that's another thing that you don't really use.
I probably wouldn't use it every day if we had one here, but it would be like when people come.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like
that's
I
what
know
he's
people
talking
will.
about.
It would be more like entertainment. Yeah.
But we weren't there for that long. We had like basically we got there at midnight. Me, Leah, Rob, and Kian and Miguel, we all chatted till like 3 a.m. And then they're like, "Yeah, we should go to sleep." Sleep, wake up. The girls are like in our room, like wake up.
Wanting to play, yeah.
Kiara and Mackenzie, but they're really cool. They're really,
Yeah.
really cool. It's like they're the gin event compared to here, they were like different. They were like much more chill. But they're a lot of fun, really, really a lot of fun, really mature. And yeah, so we had the full day with them on Saturday, and then Sunday we spent half the day, and then we drove down and hung out with Natasha and Ricky. And so just throughout the weekend with with the Spahars it was just so fun. And Leah has exploded in her expression. Like after coming back from the gin event, Rob too, he's telling me about his process as well, where he's like, yeah, I started the DIP light, and I never really written about my feelings or anything like that, but just doing the writing about your thoughts, the first lesson. He's like, man, that is really powerful. Just going through your own stuff that comes up throughout the day, because you've been walking around with that stuff forever, right?
Yeah.
And so he's like, that has been really good. And then you got Leah, who's just like a powerhouse now, and she brought over her friend that she shared Techno Tutor with, who wants to become a licensed a distributor, and she's going to show her the area distributorship as well. But she's also like, she's the perfect person. In other words, she has a son, and she's just as passionate as Leah. It's hilarious, and she's already crushed it in business and all these things. And so I'm like, oh hey, like we only talked to her for like 10-15 minutes, just on our way out. But she's like, wow, like everybody here's like literally in like 2 minutes, like 1 minute, we just went and hugged her, and she was like, oh wow, like nobody knows how to greet each other anymore. Everybody's afraid of each other, and everybody here is so friendly. This is so cool, And even Leah's parents, right? Because they built that place to host people, and they were just so grateful for us being there. It was really, really cool. We had a lot of cool talks because, so the father who has the home, he did really, really well for himself in business, and so they're at the point where a couple of years ago they opened a charitable foundation. I wouldn't call it a foundation, but it's what's called like a dream center, where they have like after school programs and different things like that, which they did locally, right? And I was just talking, there was a time when we're all sitting down, I was talking about what we're here to do long term, and how Techno Tutor supported people. And she was like, oh my God, like this would be so good to have at the Dream Center, because of all like, they deal with a lot of children who maybe don't have parents or are going through really difficult times and things like that. So it was cool just watching them be like, oh, like what Leah's a part of is like pretty cool. The words that like Leah might not have been able to communicate to them, you have the group, right? And then I hear, so Leah's brother and sister-in-law came over later, and then I just hear the dad telling them about Techno Tutor. They're like, who are these people? And so that was really cool. It was just so much fun. Really down to earth, like people who quote unquote have money. They have their beach house in Florida. They have their beach house where we were at the south of Ontario. And then Rob and Leah are building their beach house about a 5-minute drive away, where they're going to be hosting their clubhouses and things like that.
That's really awesome.
Cool. And then between there, Rob's parents are also building a house.
Another beach house in between the two.
Is it a beach house or a house?
This one's not a beach house. It's just, it's just there, but it's like literally you like from.
But if you like, you have to have like a house on the way to the beach house, so you can like stop for the night. Exactly. It's like a midway point.
But yeah, it was just really cool because it's just like that's something that Leah mentioned plenty of times, which I know we all experienced, of the power of this network. It's just like you feel like family. You feel like real family, and you feel you can actually trust, because we had a little bit of a relationship. I met her once in person, right? But now like we're spending time with her entire family, right?
Yeah, it's like when you're aligned in principle, you can have like a connection, an intimate connection, like very quickly. You know what I mean? So it's like you don't have to get to know the person for a long time. And there's obviously going to be some element to that too. But yeah.
We gotta, like, Leah's somebody who would be worth having on one of these, man. Like her story as well. Because she had like a 19-year, she had a really powerful journey of it. She had like personal development journey was like 19 years. And the last year of having like techno tutor and everything, like completely outweighed. She's like, I feel like a brand new person between the gin event and now. It's like, man, if I can do it, talking about teaching an old dog new tricks, like she's like, oh my God, I feel like so alive. And it's been consistent. It's not like, oh, a week after the gin event is gone. It's been like a month, right? And she's still like ramping up and up and up, right? And so she's like, okay, so how do you guys do your clubhouse? I'm like, it's very simple. Just I sat Rob and Leah and Gian down. We're all sitting down. I'm like, okay, look, this is just like the first clubhouse. This is what I do. She's like, oh, it's really simple. Exactly. It's very simple. All you do, for anybody listening, the distributors, right? You decide on a date and time. You invite a couple of people that you think would fit well, just for the first one, right? And you have them over to your home or wherever you choose, common area. You can even do it if you have good weather. You can do it at a park, or for example, if you wanted to. And you, when everybody shows up, you say, hey, cool, let's everybody grab a seat. And I have a little script that I used to use in the beginning, which I got from the Self Leaders Club. So if you want that, you can message me and I'll give that to you just to begin. And basically, you just read through that. You let people know the purpose of why you're there, right? And what you're here to create. And then you say one of the typical formats that we use is we ask a question. So there'll be a question that everybody goes around and answers. And then at the end of it, you give your perspective on the question to support people to see more of what we're doing, right? So the first question, a very simple one, is what's the purpose or the power of a group, right? People are like, oh, it's like, it's a very basic answer. But what I never thought of as a group is, from Cameron being like, hey, you guys are all part of groups. Even if you're not part of gym, not part of techno tutor, you're still part of groups. And that opened me up. I'm like, oh, I'm part of a soccer group, right? I'm part of a family group. And all of these things are having influences on you, right? And there's different aspects that you can talk about where you can just support people to expand, right? So you would talk last if you're hosting the clubhouse. You would really support people to expand through that. And then after that, you just hang out, have a good time. So you ask the question, you bring up what the question is, and you say, oh, so Mitchell, would you like to start? So just introduce yourself, what you're up to now, and answer the question of, what's the purpose of a group? And then Mitchell would do it, and Drake would do it. Cameron would, you just go in a circle, and then you give your 2 cents at the end. More like $2, am I right? You got the good stuff, right?
Bitcoins.
2 Bitcoins, right? 2 BTC. And then after that, you just hang out and have a good time, right? And then it becomes this point that people want to come back to on a regular basis, because nobody's really, how many people are really meeting up in person first, just meeting up in person. And if you happen to be in one of those places where it's like nothing's changed, and regardless, the second point is no one's talking about real stuff. No one's talking about real stuff. So you have the clubhouse, and it really supports to find those people and bring them into just a really cool environment where you can talk about cool stuff and then just have fun. Right. So I showed Lee and Rob that. And then so afterwards, had an awesome dinner, all that stuff. And it was really funny because another thing that they said they don't use, in the back, when you walk out the back door, they have kind of like, you guys ever see that where it's the barbecue, but it's kind of built into kind of like countertop outside?
Yeah.
Right. So they have a countertop and they have the space for the barbecue. John, the owner of the home, he was telling me, he's like, that's something too that we couldn't predict when we were, building the home, was where it's at in terms of the exposure to the back, the beach. When there's an average windy day, we can't use it. It puts the fire out. So they got literally the exact same grill. And it's just literally just right around the corner. With this massive grill, right? And that's the one that they use. Yeah. So after that, on their way back, stopped to visit Ricky and Natasha, and that was just That was just so, dude, their house. I thought, one thing about when somebody builds a house, like, oh, cool. Like, you built this. One, the house, when you walk in, is absolutely stunning. Like, stunning. And two, then you learn that, usually when somebody says, we built the house, it means they customized it. They got a builder that was good. Ricky legitimately, with his own two hands, built the house. Like, he put in all of the pieces of wood.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Every aspect of it. Except
So cool.
he was like, the only thing I didn't really do is like the drywall, because it's just such a cheap thing that you can pay for. So I just like get that done. But everything else, he did it. And I was like, holy crap. It was so, so beautiful. They picked every part of it. Right. So being able to spend time there, we got there at like 6 on our drive back, 6 p.m. Sunday. And we were going to stay there till like maybe 8:39 so we can get home around 12 to drive the rest of the way back. But we ended up leaving till like 11:30 because it was just so fun. It was just so comfortable. And again, 2 other people that we saw in person one time. And it was just, when we walked in, it was just like, here, welcome, and having really awesome conversations. And then you have Anastasia, who is just like mind blowing. She just turned 2 and she's just so brilliant, how clear she is in her speech. And she's able to, he's like, oh, Anastasia, do you remember the 2 different types of trees? She's like, coniferous. And he's like, and do you remember the other one? And she's like deciduous. I'm like, damn. One, I didn't really know that. I heard it before, but her enunciation of it, her pronunciation, I don't know the right word for it, but the way she pronounces it was so specific and so clear, right? Where Ricky was mentioning, oh, my mom, we were trying to figure out how to do say vase or vase. And then she said this word that was based off what Ricky's mom had said, because she had given her some flowers, like Ophelias or something like that. I don't remember the exact word. And just so Ricky's talking about mom, vase, and then out of nowhere, she's like, Ophelias. They're like, see, we were literally just talking about, and Cameron's talked about this too, where, there'd be something that the child experienced maybe a month ago, 3 months ago, and they bring it up now. And one of the things was earlier, because they were hanging out with Seneca and Max, and Seneca had this lizard that she was playing with, right? And just like, that yesterday, she was like, where's Seneca's lizard? And it's always making you like, what? Oh, she's talking about a month ago when we were in Orlando, and she remembers that, like these kind of little points, which is always so brilliant. But
you see how if the parent's not there all the time, they'll be like, no, what are you talking about? There's no lizards in the house or something, they'll be like, there's no lizards. Like, what are you talking about? Like they wouldn't have any idea. That's how you start to not be able to relate to your child anymore.
Wow. Mm-hmm. And there was one really cool moment. It was after we're all sitting by the couch. And it's just really indicative of how smart she is, because there were so many moments like this. But one of them is like, I gave her something, and she was like, Natasha's like, you can say, thank you, thank you, Kian. And she was like, thank you, Kian. And then I was like, oh, Asif. And Natasha's like, she looked up and she's like, oh, it's Asif, my bad. And then she's like, thank you, Asif. So the first point there is all I said was Asif, right? I was just like, oh, Asif.
She was like, why am I saying thank you to Kian? He's not in here.
And right away, the Anastasia was like, oh, she understood that I was correcting.
Yeah, like what you were saying, yeah.
Right? She was like,
she can process at a very high level, even though she can't verbalize at that same level that she's processing at, because it's developmental. Although she can verbalize at a very high level, but it's like you don't realize how much the younger children actually understand about what's going on just because they can't verbalize it yet. Yeah. So parents think like, oh, it doesn't matter, just do whatever.
Right, exactly.
So they wonder why by the time they're 7, they're still dumb. It's like, because you didn't understand that they're processing and integrating a lot. So you didn't direct it. And Anastasia, her mom's been using Technotutor with her since basically since the same time that we started with our kids, like around the
Right.
same age relatively, right? Within like a month or something. So you're seeing now how advanced that kid is because of those basic points, starting with symbols and integrating those things.
Right.
It's like you're in the beginning making sure that you're installing the operating system on the computer correctly, versus like kind of randomly haphazardly. And then only later on you start to realize, oh damn, this thing's not working properly. It's like, it's like with building the house. If Ricky had just kind of like randomly let people come in and put stuff in there, and he's like not even, eventually he'd be like, why is this door not open? Like, oh shit, this is not right. You know what I mean? But
That's one of the things
you
that
had to fix that in the beginning. Huh?
Where as they were doing they did the letters, right? But then she started counting, and they're like, oh crap, we should do the numbers now, right? She just started counting, right? She's like, oh, we should do the numbers to catch up and make sure that stuff is integrated properly, right?
So we started with all the symbols, just like that. Letters, upper, lower, and then upper, lowercase, numbers. Then we did punctuation, and then we did all the mathematical symbols.
Right.
And so you wonder why Max is so fucking good at math already. He's not even 5.
And you can like point at that mom and pop shop and be like, oh, where it says ampersand.
Yeah.
Ampersand.
Oh yeah, when he was like little.
Exactly, like really young.
When you were saying about like the Ophelias, like just making that connection, I remember.
Is that a plant?
It's a flower.
I think so. I've heard
Is
that.
it sound right? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm learning from her.
But like I remember the first time I went to visit Cameron and family, right? And I was outside with Max, and it was just Max at that time. He was like 2 years old. And I remember we were walking alongside this bush, and I saw like there were little holes in the leaves, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna teach Max something. I was like, hey Max, you see this bush here, how there's like holes in the leaves, and like these leaves are being eaten by something. And he turns to me and he goes, caterpillar. And I'm like, oh shit.
Wow.
like here I thought I was going to teach him something, like, but he was making the connection based on something that he had learned at an earlier time, obviously, right? But like his ability to put that together, like Cam was saying, like, kids are processing things at such a high rate that they're not able to verbalize. I remember even being a kid, like remembering things and thinking of things, but I wasn't able to clearly say it, or like I didn't feel like I had to say it, or like just that. I don't know what the developmental process is, but I know the way that I felt as a kid was just like, I don't have to say that, or like, why don't you get this, or like it was just like a you should know this kind of thought in my mind. And then it wasn't until I was older that I realized like you have to explain things to people for them to hear your thoughts and things like that.
Yeah, so we had to explain to Max and Seneca is like,
Right.
If you just only cry, like, I don't know what it is that you need, because you have to explain to me what you want so I can understand it better. Because when you're little, you only need certain basic things. But now that you're getting older, it's more complicated, more complex what you want. So if you just stick with crying and then you get frustrated, understand, I don't know what it is you want. So when you communicate with words, you help me understand what you need. So we explain that constantly to them so that they know to like talk to us. You see what I mean? Because we know they don't know that, but parents don't consider what children don't know. They just a lot of times take for granted what the parent already knows and assume the child should know that. And they don't communicate. Plus, the parent's not really communicating in their life. That's why their relationships aren't working, because they're not communicating to their partner what they actually want, what they're actually thinking, and so forth. Right? They just hide it. Like Mayor and Max were playing, and they're reading some book, and then the character goes, well, if I have 5, it was like peas or something. It's like, if I have 5 peas, and then you take 3 and give me back 2, how many would I have? And Max immediately goes, 4. And like Mayor's in there, and he's like, well, how do you know that? And he goes, well, 5 minus 3 is 2 plus 2 is 4. Right. And if you look up, like I looked up the other day, like last week, remember I posted that thing about the different math abilities by grade level. And that's the end of 3rd grade. It's like being able to take a situation and break it down into a mathematical equation. You see what I mean? But because the symbols are so integrated, his mind is able to just work with the information like very easily, you know? And it's like, I mean, that he's a genius. Like, what can I say? And he's not a natural born genius. It's an artificial intelligence that we've developed by using TechnoTutor. You see what I mean? People say, well, maybe it's your parenting style. I'm like, well, yeah, it's that too. So you should do that also. But you're not going to be able to do it because you can't change your first 7 years. So you need TechnoTutor to be able to even learn what we're doing. And you can do other things even better if you open up your natural learning. But it's not like we're the ultimate authority on parenting. We're just ones who are doing it. So no one can tell us otherwise.
I like how people say it's your parenting style as if like you can't replicate that parenting style.
Right, exactly. It's like, oh, it's because you have a beard. It's like, no, it's my parenting style. You can replicate that. It's not something that I have that nobody has.
Right.
Well, it's like, yeah, it's like Gordon Ramsay. He's so good at being a chef. Well, it's because of his cooking style. Yeah. That's right. Yes, he's very good at cooking. No, but it's his style. It's just the way he cooks. Like,
but you know what it is? It's like people have a belief about how they should parent, right?
But they think parent. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
But like, okay, like what I'm saying is they have this. Okay, you explaining things to your kids and like you not hitting your kids. Like, well, I believe you should hit your kids. Right. And so like
that's what I mean by bias. That's what I mean by bias and opinion. And that's why I'm saying a parent is not going to be able to do what we're doing if they don't have TechnoTutor, because they're not able to let go of those things because it's like ingrained. So you have to remove your biases. Like I was spanked as a child. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I had to let go of, well, not that I ever had to let go of it when we had kids. I did it beforehand because I watched a lot of videos and I understood and I looked at the point. I was like, oh, this doesn't make sense to do that. Do you know what I mean? Like it has to be off the table, basically. Yeah. Not even just like I understand not to, I have to take it off the table. Because when you take it off the table, for example, hitting your kids, then you have to learn how to communicate better, isn't it?
Yeah. That would be like learning, okay, perfect. Because if you want that result, right, for the child, like that's the things that you have to change. But that would be as if you're learning from Gordon Ramsay how to cook the perfect steak. He like in his restaurants, they have really great steaks, right? Like you're learning from him how to cook the perfect steak. And then you're like, oh, okay, great. I'm going to do that, but I'm going to burn the shit out of this fucking steak.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I really think you should have some burntness on it.
Yeah.
You know,
I had it when I was a kid, you know, like all my steaks were cooked really burnt. Like, I really like your steak. It's amazing.
It's way better than any steak I've ever had.
But you know, that's how you're supposed to make a steak. And you're telling him how to do it.
He's like,
yeah. It's like, are you fucking mad? Like,
you having a laugh, mate?
Yeah.
The fuck out of my
kitchen. Yeah. Anyway.
So it's been really cool just kind of seeing more and more kids who are using TechnoTutor and their ability to communicate and their ability to read and their ability. Who was it? Kiara. No, she's 8. She's like, I can spell consequences. CONSEQUENCES. You know?
That's awesome.
It's like, oh, cool. And then the 5-year-old Mackenzie, she's like, I could spell focus, FOCUS. Like, oh, snap. These kids are going off. And just like the little things of, you know, she's using her phone and, you know, Kiara was like calling Cameron and like calling a bunch of people.
Well, I got a call from Maylat.
Right.
Facebook Messenger, and I'm like, Maylat never calls me. And I was like, maybe it's gonna be Asif on the phone or something. Right? So I answered it because I was on the phone with Avery when she called, and it was like some really high pitched girl's voice. I'm like, who is this? And she was like, it's not Maylat, and she was like, it's Kiara. I'm like, oh, hey, what's up? And I was like, what are you guys doing? You're on Maylat's phone, so you guys must be visiting with Asif and Kian. And what are they doing? She's like, oh, Asif's in the Ferrari with Papa.
Exactly. So we were calling each other. She had Maylat's phone. I had my phone. Then John came down. Well, she was in some other room. We were just talking to each other. And then John came downstairs. He's like, you ready to go for a ride? I'm like, yeah, sure thing. And then while I was on there, I just want to block this a little bit here. She just starts calling.
Yeah. She's calling everybody.
And she typed
I'm
this
rooting
out.
for
Look
you,
at
Hurry.
this right here. This is when I got confused about if it was Maylat or an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
She's like, come on, what is it? I'm waiting for you. Hurry. She just keeps calling. I'm like, I'm just gonna, put on airplane mode while I'm in this Ferrari.
No, what's funny is when I was on the phone with her, like suddenly she's like, I'm connecting with Megan. And then suddenly I hear Megan's voice going, hey, what's going on? like, why am I talking with Megan all of a sudden?
That's so funny.
Yeah,
So then,
she was like,
same thing, like the little girl, Mackenzie, I was like, I don't think she knows how to use this thing. And like, there's a phone call that just hung up and, on Messenger, it says rate it 5 stars. And it says not now and submit. And you can only hit submit if you hit one of the ratings. She's like, not now. Hit that one. I was like, oh, right. She can read, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And Anastasia, to finish that last point, because she was like, Natasha said, say thank you, Asif. And she's like, thank you, Kian. She's like, thank you, Kian. And she's like, I was like, Asif. And she says, thank you, Asif. So she understood that. And then just like a moment, and then Natasha's like, oh, my apologies, And about like 10 seconds later, she was like, so are you Kian? She looked at me and she was trying to process it. Like, are you Kian? And then Tasha's like, oh no, like mommy made a mistake. You were right. That was Asif, And it was just so cool because it's like, it was this point of, mom told her Kian, but she was still like, you're Asif though. And it's this little subtle point of she can think for herself.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not like, well, mommy said it's, And then and then Natasha was willing to say, I made a mistake.
Right. It was amazing. Natasha is an amazing mother.
Yeah.
Another amazing mother. Right. And even supporting Ricky, because Ricky's like, look, I never had any little brothers, sisters, cousins, or anything. So I have no benchmark at all whatsoever to what's, pretty good for a child to be learning at a certain age. Or
you're like, Ricky, this is pretty good.
He sends a picture. He was telling us about how one night, right? Because normally Natasha's putting Anastasia to bed, but Natasha was taking a shower or something like that, and Ricky was putting Anastasia to bed. And I think they had just, she had just went off, and then all Natasha hears from the bedroom is, "Hey, Tash!" She's like, "I know," because she was reading, right? And he's like, "Why didn't you tell me this? Like, this is amazing, right?" And so she was like reading this book, and Ricky had sent a picture to one of his best friends because they've been keeping tabs, kind of thing. And as soon as he sent it, he's like, "This is incredible. Like, I'm going to buy a Tech Tutor. Like, I'm going to contact your father-in-law, Avery. Like right now, I'm getting Tech Tutor." And even, the cool part is since then, they were talking about how like Ricky was like, oh, even since he got Tech Tutor, yeah, he was using it with his son or daughter. I think it was a daughter. He's like, but even the father in that situation, he was using it for himself, and he's watching his life take off already. He's like, this is so cool, right? So it was just really cool seeing how Natasha even communicates with Ricky to give him the perspective of like, hey, like this is the way you want to consider when you speak to her about this point. And he's like, okay, that makes sense. Like super, like really two parents that really want to do the best for their kid. Right. And Ricky was mentioning this point of like, when you have a child, it makes everything you think you accomplished before like nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like you think you're successful or whatever, but then you have a child and you're like,
this is a guy who was a professional NFL CFL player.
The guy could like pick
like went to the top
at the same time,
like had the most sacks, like he's like it's like a semi truck running into you when he hits you,
right? He had the most sacks. Sacks.
What do you think I said?
Sex. That didn't sound like sex to you.
Oh, you thought I said sex? He's at least had it one time.
Yeah,
guys,
the most sex of any other football player you even know of.
But yeah, the guy's like massive, right?
And he's successful is what I'm saying, like at the top of the top, right? Yeah.
Which is really cool because, you know, he's got the home gym in the garage, like really nice. And I'm like, you know, it shows, right? The guy could like,
He's a very large man.
eat you.
And it's not
yeah.
800-pound life. It's like I can lift 800 pounds. He could like lift the 800-pound guy out of his house.
Yeah. So it's just really cool seeing the parents who are willing to really take responsibility for their child's education, and then what that results in a child, and just seeing it on such a systematic basis. Because in the beginning it was, you know, just Max kind of thing. Then there was Max and Seneca. Then you got Max, Seneca, all of the Isabels, you know, all the 4 kids there, Mackenzie, Kiara. There's so many different kids now who are growing up with parents who are really focused on, oh, this is something that I can actually be at cause over, how my child grows up. Versus when I met Maylat, like what she was describing at that, she's kind of just sharing her story about being like, yep, you can do everything right. Doesn't matter. Child can still turn into a monster.
Yeah. Dude, I was just talking.
That's what we got programmed. Right?
I was just talking with one of the parents in the parenting group, I think yesterday, and she was telling me how with her daughter that she's going out with some of their friends and things like that, and when they go out, the friends, her daughter's 3, and then her friends' kids are like 4, right? And she's saying how she can see really clearly the difference in the way that the kids communicate and everything. She was saying how like she'll tell her daughter like, hey, go have fun, play, whatever. But in 5 minutes, you know, we're planning to leave here. And her daughter's like, okay, I got it. And so 5 minutes goes by and her daughter's like, okay, I'm ready to go. And then the other kids are like throwing fits, throwing tantrums, all of that. And she's like explaining to her daughter, like, you know, oh, here's why we don't do that. You know, like that's not the way that we communicate in our house. Yeah. Right. And it's really cool because she's seeing how those kids are being impulsed, right? And wow, how those kids, like she's seeing the result. This is what she's describing to me, like the result of her walking this process and doing this with her kids, and where she would have been is like completely different. And I was saying to her, like, you know, what do you think it would have been like if, you know, you didn't get Technotutor for like another 2 years? And she's like, dude, it'd be terrible because not only, this is her words, she said, not only would we have to catch up, we'd have to undo so much first. We'd have to just get back to 0 first. And then we'd have to start catching up to where we are now. We'd be so far behind. Wow. Right. And so it's been cool to see like other parents taking this on for themselves and like really just like, because we have so much available right now for parents where I barely even talk to her, right? And she's just taking what we have in the parenting group, taking the videos that we've already made, taking like all the material that's already available and just taking it on for herself, looking it up and using her Technotutor. And she's able to get this result without anyone like really holding her hand necessarily. Like we're here to support, right? But not telling her what to do or you know. Yeah,
it's you're not like sitting lecturing her and
it's
stuff.
Not like
she's just coming to you whenever she might have a question.
Exactly. And so it's been really cool to see that.
And I've never talked to her. I know who you're talking about, I think.
Yeah.
And I've literally never spoken to her ever. Like I said, maybe like on a call where it's like hi kind of thing, but like,
right.
Yeah. And I know she's talked to Katie maybe, but it's like once.
Yeah.
You know, but it's cool because it just shows you this isn't about any particular person being a leader. It's, you know, as in like the top, it's about everybody integrating the points, using common sense, building their vocabulary. And that point you made about how much they'd have to undo when an adult gets Technotutor, that's what they're doing. So when you want to be a parent, you have to undo all of that stuff so you can be an effective parent.
And that was another thing that she said. She was like, she learned really quickly, really early on, because she's saying like right now, the way that our child's learning is like, it's just accelerating. It's just getting faster and faster. And she's like, I'm like having to keep up with oh, she's already beyond that. Like, oh, we got to get something else and learn something else. Like she wants more. And it's cool. Her daughter's 3. And she's saying she doesn't want to learn the kiddie stuff. She's not interested in the like stuff that's made for kids or whatever. That's like all cartoons and all that. She wants to know the real deal. Like, give me as much information, the real stuff. Yeah. And like, but like on an adult level. And so she's saying how she's got to find things that are like, okay, I need to be able to actually teach her things. And so I have to learn things for myself even. And she was saying that where she was before, she was not at a level where she would have been able to do any of this stuff because the way that she thought about parenting. Oh, perfect example. She had to change her parenting style or her beliefs about parenting to get to the point where she could actually be of value to her child and be so far advanced that her child can be advanced. Because if she were not advancing herself, then her child would be basically in the same position. She wouldn't get the advancement. And so it's funny, like sometimes parents will look at, what you're doing with Max and Seneca or what somebody else is doing, like, Natasha's doing with Anastasia or whatever. And they're like, oh, but they're smart. Like those parents are smart. Those parents can do this. So like, of course their kids are going to be like that. It's like, but you can do that. And here's a parent telling us firsthand from her experience of like, I was not that parent who was going to do these things for my kid. I wanted these things for my kid. I was not going to do that because of my beliefs and the way that I thought about parenting, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And when I got TechnoTutor, that all shifted. That's what she was saying. Like when she got TechnoTutor, that all shifted for her, where she's like, oh, I can see why I should change this. This other thing that she said that was so cool. She said she went to like some parent meetup, whatever. And one of the parents that came to this meetup was like off sitting in a corner with a mask on and then letting her child go play with the rest of the kids. And she was talking, the mom that I was talking to was talking to other parents in this meetup and just saying how like, hey, what's going on with this kid and that mom? And the other parents were saying, well, that lady's trying to like walk through her fears or whatever, just leave her be. And the mom I was talking to in our parenting group, she's like, but she's not walking through her fears. Like she's just sitting there in a corner. And that's what she's teaching her kid, is that you can avoid talking to people. You can be antisocial. Like she's telling her kid to go play, but she's not doing that thing. And so that's what and this is the mom telling me, like, she's not actually being a good example for her child. If she's not walking through it, how is she going to expect her child to walk through it? And then she was like, and they were thinking, like the way that the parents that she was talking to were considering what she was saying was like, well, no, you can't say that about people. You just got to let them do whatever, she's actually trying. But from her perspective, she's like, but I've actually walked through fears. So I know what it actually looks like when you are walking through it versus like, you just showed up and like, you're off in the corner. You're not actually doing it. You're not doing the process. Like, and that's how most people think about it, is like, oh, you shut up and like you're uncomfortable, but you're not actually applying yourself. You're not actually looking at why you're doing that in the first place and understanding it and then challenging it and actually walking through it and actually forgiving yourself and actually changing that. And then you're able to share that with your children. And that's part of what she's been doing, not just for herself, but also for her child as well. And I just wanted to share that because like, I don't know if people outside of our group really understand like how profound that really is. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the cool thing about this, is like everything we're doing is 100% replicatable. So anyone listening to this who you're like, oh, well, that's just them because they're on the podcast or whatever bullshit excuse you're giving yourself. Like we have people now. So in Connecticut, some of our newer distributors, they had their first clubhouse this weekend. It was awesome to see. I have Chantel, one of our distributors in North Dakota. She just had her first sale this past weekend, and then and she's getting involved in her local group, and she's then looking at taking on the Self-Perfected Clubhouse. So it's like all over this is happening. So yeah, and even and well, especially for people who haven't had kids yet, is like build this point before you have the kids. And if you have the kids, that's okay, but just build the point now then, because what's going to happen when, you know, a couple of years from now, when it's like, ooh, homeschooling, you know, homeschooling's dangerous, homeschooling's bad. Like, you want to establish those networks of people that are thinking like-minded and how they want to raise their kids. You want to establish that immediately so that we have that network of support when the system keeps clamping down on everything.
Yeah.
It's funny because we had the same mini conversation with Natasha and Ricky as we did with Rob and Leah of, man, it's so great to have a network like this. It's so great to have, you know, this kind of mini event where we can just come over and hang out and have and really feel connected from the perspective of, oh, I know these people have my back. I know it. Right. Where they're just, Natasha and Ricky are like, hey, like, if you guys want to stay over, just stay over. If you're ever coming through, feel free. Come by, hang out. Like, no problem. What's mine is yours. It's like, it's really cool to have that trust, but you have to build that. Right. Like what Mitchell has. Right. It's like what we have in Ottawa. It's something that when we were spending time with Leah and Rob, they're about 6 hours from us, and Ricky and Natasha about 3.5 hours from us, and they were both talking about, you know, it's funny, and I've heard this many times from people who live in Louisiana, from people who are in Germany, Europe. They're like, we want to come and visit you. And I was like, don't do that. Like, you know, this is sometime I'm like, why the hell would you want to come visit? You know, but now I get it because I know what people generally have access to in terms of a community. And I know what we've created here. So Leah and Rob are like, yeah, we should totally come down to Ottawa. We should have a thing where all of the Canadians get together. Right.
You might have to do your own Canadian events because
apparently we can't
let you across the border.
make it across, right? And so same thing of, you know, Natasha and Ricky are like, yeah, like, you can come down to Ottawa, you know. I'm like, yeah, that would be really cool. So it's like creating this network where no matter what's in time, right, no matter what city you go to, you're always going to have somebody there to show you around, to take you into whatever the case may be.
And it's not someone creating it for you. It's you creating it. So it's like, do you want to go to a place that you didn't create or be involved in creating with a bunch of people that are just going to like be way better than you and you're just there at their behest? Or do you want it to be like, it's your community, like you're a part of it, like they're your friends, they're people you're connected to, they're people that you support and support you and you actually know. I mean, that's what we're talking about. It's like the actual meaning of community, you know
that
real
reminds
thing.
me of? That reminds me of like, I remember taking this tour and going into a library, but it was a private library owned by, I don't even know, some like super elite name or whatever. And the person who was bringing us in was like, basically like, we're not supposed to be in here. Like, and when you walk in here, you're gonna feel
Should
like,
have been like, no, I know how to read. It's okay. He's like, what? He's like, these are books, everybody. They have weird symbols and spells. Don't look at them.
Yeah.
There's
Like,
no
he's like,
autocorrect in them. There's
It's
no,
like, it's okay. They're not touch screens. Okay, guys.
there's no text to speech.
right, but like, we didn't have an invitation or anything like that. It's not supposed to be open to the public or anything, but they knew how to like kind of finesse the system.
They know how to unlock the door.
They knew how to unlock the door.
He's like, I have the key.
We're not supposed to be in here. Let's go. And so like, it was funny, like walking in, it's very opulent setting, all that. And like the initial feeling that I got walking in, this years ago, initial feeling that I got was like, I'm not supposed to be in here. And like, I wanted to go and explore and all this, but like, I didn't want to get kicked out, you know, versus like when you're putting on the event, when it's your group, you've created it.
Right.
And like, when people come in, you're like, hey, come in, have a great time. Yeah, no, I'm going to go over here. Like you're exploring, you're actually doing things. You're fully expressing yourself, you know? And like, it's a completely different dynamic when you have created not just a community, but also yourself. You've built yourself to that level where like, Kim, you've been talking about this for like the last several weeks of the people that you're being introduced to, the people that are coming and finding you, and the level at which your network has grown immensely over the last 5 years, right? And that's because of all the work that you've done, not just on yourself. Like you know how people think, like when you say the work that you've done on yourself, it's like, oh, it does this inner work, or I've been meditating. Are you gonna say that's it? Or are you, never mind. But it's not just the work that you've done on yourself, but like the actual reflection of you physically doing the work on yourself and moving and like expressing that for real, you know, and like actually building something for real in the physical world, aka building the business, like actually supporting other people, actually standing up and making a real difference, a real change, and the whole while standing within principle of doing what's best for all. And like, you can see really clearly if you have a year to do nothing, go through Cameron's Facebook over the last 5 years. It will take you that long to scroll through, but you'll be able to see like the literal progression. And it's a daily thing. Like I love that you put it all out there. One day somebody's going to have to like go comb through your Facebook and just like make little clips of this, and this, just to show like it's a really clear progression, you know? And that's part of why I got TechnoTutor in the first place, was because I knew you from years before. You know, we had met in person and all that and become friends on Facebook. And then over the years, I could see your life progressing, getting better, advancing. And I was just like, okay, that guy's doing something. He doesn't seem like that much different than me. I want to know. I'm curious. I want to know what the fuck's going on, you know? And that I'm really appreciative that you did that, you know? And that brings me up to this point, that parent that I was talking to, that mother I was talking to, she was saying she doesn't post a lot because she's afraid of, this is what her belief was, that people will perceive it as her bragging, right? And it's so cool because you doing that, posting a lot, is actually what helped me to see like, oh, this is somebody that is actually moving, is actually changing. And there was like a consistency and almost like there was trust already built from us having met in real life, right? But like, it also produced that trust as well of like, I can clearly point it out. You don't have to convince me of anything. I can see with my own eyes what's going on here, you know? And so I was also telling that mother, like, you should post more often because. Yeah,
because I like her posts too. She like posts like stuff that she's making at home. Like they made some raw cheese. That was really cool.
Yeah.
You know, it reminds me of like the other, like last week or so, I don't remember how this point came up, but somebody was, because I had reposted something I had posted originally like years ago about humble, the word being humble. Mm-hmm. And I was showing the definitions and I was like, what's so great about being humble? You know, and like, I'm going to look it up real quick. Or maybe Mitch, can you look it up?
Definition
you're
of humble.
You're the lookup guy.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? I shouldn't do it. That's not my brand. Mitch's brand is the lookup.
It's all brand
humble.
For me.
Humble. Adjective, having or showing a modest or low estimate of one's own importance. 2, of low social, administrative, or political rank. Or verb, lower someone in dignity or importance.
Humble yourself.
Nick, keep going.
That's what I got from Google, the almighty Google.
That's it?
Humus, or it's from Latin humilis, low or lowly.
It's from Latin hummus.
Hummus, you're loading.
See, that's a good definition right there. Hummus.
Interesting. Like when here's Merriam-Webster, because when I posted it, there was more to it. And I'm looking at it, you're right about Google. I mean, they must have changed it. But like if you look up Merriam-Webster, it says not proud, not thinking of yourself as better than other people. Given or said in a way that shows you do not think you are better than other people, showing that you do not think of yourself as better than other people, not proud, not arrogant. And then it has also the other points that you brought up, right? And so like in that post, I had reposted it and this person was like, well, I think most people, when they're using it, they mean it in that other sense of like, not being overly arrogant and all that kind of stuff, right? And I was like, well, what's wrong with that? And she was like, well, people tend to listen to you more if, you're not, it was something to that effect. It was like, they'll be more likely to like listen to you if they don't think you're being, and I'm like, plenty of people listen to me. And my intention is not to be like, look how amazing I am. So even if I write, look how amazing I am, my starting point is not, I actually want adoration. You see what I mean? And so what I found is by showing all the things that I'm doing, like Drake was just saying, people will listen. And I'm not asking them to follow me. Because if you do it with the starting point of look at all these amazing things I'm doing and I just want your adoration, then you're just going to get people who are just going to follow and not do anything. But that's not my starting point. My starting point is to show the people you can do this too. Like you can have a better life that progressively gets better every day if you walk with these principles and use these tools. That's the whole point of why I'm showing it. And so I was just telling her like, well, what I found is that the more I just show what I'm doing and don't worry about, am I bragging or not? Like people listen to me. And the person that was talking to me, like, I know no one's listening to this person. And I'm not trying to deprecate them or anything like that, or to act like they're bad or anything like that. It's just, I know no one, they're not influencing anybody like in any real significant way. And someone would say, so you're just comparing, like, you just think you're so great because you're influencing so many people. No, I don't think I'm influencing that many people. I'm not trying to influence that many people. I'm trying to influence a few people. And then they can influence a few people and they can influence a few people. So it's not about the greatness of how many you're influencing. It's like, are you actually influencing people to do what's best? That's the measurement. Do you see what I mean? Like, are you actually supporting parents to get techno-tutor? Like if Katie and I had not done with our kids what we've done, Natasha wouldn't be doing what she's doing.
Right.
And it's not because she's owes everything to us. It's just because we did it so she could see, oh, I can do that with this specific tool. It's not that she would be a terrible mom without it, but I mean, she wouldn't be as good as a mom as she could be. That's for sure. That's 100%. But so that doesn't diminish what she is or who she is without it. But that'd be like saying Ricky would never be what he was without the gym. True, false?
True, yeah.
Doesn't mean he doesn't have points within himself where he's got drive and all these things, but without the gym, without X, Y, and Z tools, it wouldn't be able to get to the level he's at, plus other things, right? So as a parent, I know everything is because of these tools, 100%. It's not the greatness of who I am as a being. Who I am as a being is not great. Like, it's just a fact. I'm the same as everybody else. And it's like Ricky said, all your accomplishments before you have kids are irrelevant. So somebody can say, well, it doesn't seem like you've done that much. I'm like, well, but look at my kids. That's my accomplishment.
Wow. Mm.
Right? Everything else, business, everything that we'll see over the next several years, that's not because of me. That's because of other people walking the points in the network, growing and growing and growing. It's not because of me being great. The only point of my point of individuality is just not giving up. And that's not special either. Anyone can do that. There's no point within me that's great or special or amazing as who I am. There's just, I'm not going to give up. And I'm going to keep going and getting as many people as I can personally to look at these principles, walk with these principles, use these tools, and support them to understand that their purpose should be to get other people to do it too. Do you see what I mean? So it's not about personal greatness. What is so great about having people worship you?
That's actually the worst.
Like,
I hate when that happens.
What value is it? But what's the value of it? Like, the only value is in your mind. You're taking that feedback and you're using it to get energy inside of you. That's literally the only, because you can get followers and worshipers without doing anything good. You could do shitty stuff and still get followers and worshipers. I mean, look at like Nicki Minaj or somebody like that. Like, they have tons of followers, millions, and like, what are they doing other than just entertaining people with shit that doesn't make sense?
And you become their slave.
Right. So exactly. And then that's the problem. She's finding out right now, if anybody's been following her, she's finding out right now exactly what happens when you try to think for yourself.
Right?
No, it's Nicki Minaj.
Okay, what was
Nicki Minaj.
Anyways.
Oh yeah, there's a difference between those two.
Yeah,
this whole time, it is Nicki Minaj. I was thinking Cardi B.
That's what I was thinking too.
But they are, but I'm like, oh, Cardi B was the one that was on the thing with Biden and all that. It wasn't Nicki Minaj.
Right.
And I'm just realizing that I was kind of mixing them up in my mind.
Did y'all see
that? Either way, regardless, Nicki Minaj has never really said anything that mattered.
Oh,
you know what I mean? But she's finding out right now, like when you start saying anything that's your own opinion.
Did y'all see that meme that I think I shared it with you guys?
Yeah.
Where it's like,
lift
one. Black voices, elevate black voices. And then Nicki Minaj lifts her voice and then they're like, no.
It's the NPCs all angry.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, so my point was, since I don't care about the adulation, the adoration, and so forth, then I can just show off what we're doing. I don't need to worry about it. And someone says, well, you're being great, you're bragging a lot. I'm like, okay, like, so what? Well, people aren't going to listen to you. Who specifically isn't going to listen to me? Like somebody that is just looking for a person with a personality where they're just humble. Like, how would that person even know about me?
Here's what I've been seeing, and like what I've been just talking with just a few local people here about is like, if you were not to show what you're doing, and the other people who are the ones telling you you shouldn't do that and you shouldn't brag or whatever, right?
You know that video, the side-by-side video you guys did when you guys brushed, like how Max is open to getting his teeth brushed at like 1.5 years old, and then you have the dentist who's like, hi, like I'm the authority on brushing your teeth, and she's like strapping her kid under her legs. She's like, you got to keep his arms from screaming.
He's like, gonna cry and scream the whole time.
She's like, you just gotta hold his mouth open and just show me.
You're like, lady, this is why people don't like going to the dentist. You understand?
She's like, you gotta strap their legs down too. So you gotta just put them in a chokehold.
I want to say this real quick. That just reminded me. Last night, Seneca, she likes to brush her own teeth, but we have to tell her, like, you're still learning, so we need to also make sure we just get everything perfect, so that way as you're learning you don't get any problems, because you want to catch that. And she was trying to understand, and Katie was talking about, if there's issues with your teeth, you have to go to the dentist, and they have these different things they do. So I came in the room and I was like, what's going on here? What are you guys talking about? And she was like, Cameron, a dentist is someone that you go to if there's problems with your teeth, and they also have a little drill and they can drill into your teeth. And I was like, yeah, that's true. Sometimes they do that. Sometimes they just clean your teeth, like there's all these different things, right? And then I said, one time I had to go to the dentist to get one of my teeth pulled out because it was a wisdom tooth. And you know what happened? She was like, why? Why did that happen? I said, because I had eaten some candy and it left it on the back of my tooth, and it dissolved like the enamel, and that tooth, like half of the tooth just like fell apart. It like cracked. And so there was like half a tooth in there, and it was getting food in there, and I didn't want it to get infected. So I went to the dentist, and they took a needle and they put it in there, and it made it so I couldn't feel any pain, and they pulled the tooth out, and it didn't even really hurt at all afterwards. And I said, it's funny because I didn't want to take responsibility for that because I was so afraid that it was, I was so afraid. And she goes, Cameron, why were you afraid? And I was like, well, I thought it was going to hurt a lot. So I was afraid of that. And as I was saying, I was afraid of that pain. She like put her hand up on my face and she just like kind of like stroked my face and like looked at me like that. And I was like, you know what I mean? It was so cool. And I was like, she was like, she didn't say anything. But I just kept explaining, right? She was just like, it's really interesting. It was really interesting, right? She was just explaining to her what the dentist was, not to create fear within her of like, if you don't brush your teeth, you're gonna have to go to the dentist. You know what I mean? Like just showing her, explaining to her what it is. This is the consequence we want to prevent, right?
And she was stable, so she could like pay attention to what you're saying rather than being like, shit, I'm afraid of the dentist.
Yeah.
She was just like,
she was like, why were you afraid? And I told her there was just a point I was afraid I was projecting it. And like as I was saying that, she just like put her hand on my face, kind of like, just kind of like this, like
what I do when I see you in person.
Yeah, exactly. She just went like, she looked at me like this. Yeah, it was really interesting.
She said,
not even 3.
Chickens.
Love it.
That's really cool.
My little chicken. Awesome. No, she calls them chickens.
Chickens.
What?
Yeah, Drake was making a really good point about the people who are putting everything out there. That's what I wanted to bring up. Of like,
the contrast. Yeah,
everyone's listening to that person.
Right. So who's putting other stuff out there? Cardi B.
Right. Exactly. So it's like you got those people, and then you all have.
Does she brag, guys? Does she brag?
Yeah.
But she got millions of followers, so I don't know what this person's talking about. Like, right. Well, people will follow you. It sounds like the opposite.
and usually the people who are saying like, don't brag, they have nothing to show. Like nothing at all.
Right. That's the point. Is they're just trying to stop you because you're making them feel bad by contrast. And that's why I'm doing it. So you can see, look, you don't have the things. Just you can have the things, but you have to, it's not that you have to copy what I'm doing. The thing that you would copy would be having the same purpose, the same principles, really.
Yeah. And okay, here's also why they feel bad, right? Because when they see like a Cardi B or whoever bragging, they don't necessarily feel bad about it because they're like, oh, well, they're special. I can't do what they're doing, right? Versus when they see you doing it, they don't think you're special.
Like, but like, God damn it, you're just like me.
Hey, that's actually brilliant.
Yeah,
that's a genius observation.
Yeah,
that's really, really well said. It's like I had people from high school, right? That they liked me in high school, all this stuff. But when it came down to as our paths diverged, and other people from high school kind of like adopting principles and living their relationship by principles and agreements and things like that, their life started changing a lot. But then those same high school friends that are like, no, fuck you guys. There's no way that you can have that and that and that and that and be traveling and all this stuff. We went to the same high school. It's like a subconscious point, right? But it's like, that doesn't make any sense. So they attack.
It's like, yeah, guys, I didn't get any of this because of high school. Just to make you aware. It's all that stuff I'm talking about.
And the people who are like, oh, I get that. So I'm going to do what you're doing after high school. They're here. Right? I have multiple friends from high school who are now walking this process. And
that's pretty cool.
Better, right? So it's like, there's a clear dichotomy of the people who are like, the fuck, I went to high school with you. What are you doing? I want to do that too. The fuck, I went to high school with you. What are you doing? No, screw that. Screw you. Right? Just for that specific point that Drake was talking about of, wait, they're just like me. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So let me just shit on everything you're doing. Right? I'm like, I love it. Right? Before I used to be very, very afraid. I was like, oh my God. Because in high school, I was the people pleaser. I have to be friends with everybody. Right? Then as I'm walking this process, I'm like, oh no, this person's talking shit. Like they're trolling my post or whatever. Then I reach out to them and I find out, oh, they're just pussies. I'm like, oh, then they like, one of my friends, they unfriend me. I'm like, hey man, like, hey, how's it going? Right. I'll hear from my other friend that he's talking shit about me. I'm like, that's so funny. I'm glad I can play such a meaningful role in your life, but then I'll message them and they'll never say anything. They don't even respond. I'm like, oh, come on. I just want to talk. Right.
Yeah.
And so my point with that is it's very clear of that was a really cool distinction of like, oh, that person's special, so it's totally fine if they brag, because I could just dream about it and pretend in my mind, versus if it's when it's somebody who actually did things differently than I did, I don't want to have to do that. So I just have to take them out.
Yeah. You're
It's
just
such a-
bragging. You just
such an
got lucky.
interesting
You just fuck you, you know, like, yeah, it's awesome.
System agents, that's all they are.
Yeah.
And we're not like, oh, look, the haters. And he's like, people have haters. Everyone has haters. Yeah, that's just a natural thing that's going to happen, because if people are not moving themselves and don't have the things they want, they're going to become jealous. But I don't really care about that. It's more the point of people trying to stop you, influencing other people. And that's why you have to be sometimes very aggressive online, because the haters are going to be aggressive. And if you don't, oh man, I'll send this to you later. There's this funny video, because like on YouTube, I have the premium. I don't know if it's because I have premium, but I just have a YouTube account, and it has like shorts, you know, where it's like little, it's almost like TikToks, but it's on YouTube.
Yeah.
And there was this one, and it was like this guy, Billy something. He's like a man on the street. It's called Billy on the Street. I don't know how I followed him, but
Does he have a microphone?
Yeah, he's like one of those guys, right?
Yeah.
And he's pretty funny. And it was like something about out Karening a Karen. And this woman comes up to him, and she was like, it was something where she was like, what is this? And he was like, what is this? This is and she was like, what are you, like on the internet or something? He's like, this is a TV thing, okay, and the internet. And she was like, well, I don't like your attitude. And he was like, and she starts walking away. He's like, I don't like your attitude. Fuck you, bitch, right? And it was just showing how you match that person. Because like, imagine if it was the other way around. She's like, what is this? And he's like, oh, well, it's just an interview. And then she's like, you know how that person would become more.
Yeah.
But he was like very like that kind of like gay bitchy fucking, you know, like personality, right? Like right back at her. And she was just like, I'm out of here, you know. He was like, fuck you, you know, because that's not his personality normally when he's on there, as far as I know, right? But he like was like just showing how you can mirror that. So it's like
homeopathy, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. But it's the same point. It's like, if you're going to stand in the system and change it, you have to be equal to it. Your starting point can be different, but you have to be equal to it. Like if you're like, well, I'm not going to brag because I don't want to. It's like, no, you don't want to brag because you don't want the responsibility of people looking at you. And then you have to take responsibility for supporting them actually.
That's a good point.
So you just become jealous because you want to have those things, but you don't want to brag about it. It's just a weakness. That's all it is. So it's like people have the word humble, and it literally only means to them not bragging, because if you brag, that's the Bible said you're bad. Or the Bible said this. And I'm like, dude, God brags all the fucking time. Mighty is my name, and I have 5,000 chariots of golden angels. And you're like,
bow down and kiss my feet at my
he's the fucking master and Lord and Savior. And it's like, oh, I was gonna say this too. I thought it was a really cool point earlier, like this point about the self-perfected clubhouses, right? We talked about, and you guys were sharing, people are already doing it now. Isn't that, and you were just saying, like, you sit down, it's like, okay, meeting time, kind of, right? Here's a question. Like, here's the point of what we're doing, and here's a question. What do you guys think about this? And then I'm going to give my perspective. I'm going to basically teach y'all from my perspective, okay? Because I'm the one running the clubhouse, facilitating it, right? And it's a good way also, like you listen to Your Wish is Your Command, where KT says, like, one of the best ways to learn is to teach. Now you could, and he also says, don't teach before you know something, right? But I want to clarify that. People try to make up their own fucking thing, and they try to teach that. And really all they're trying to do is sell it and make money. They don't actually have anything to teach. And there's no, like, they don't have any results. They don't have anything they've ever done. They don't stand for anything. They're just trying to get in on the bandwagon of like, everybody's an influencer and a this and a that. And you're just trying to like get in on that. And you're just branding yourself. That's all you're doing. That's all you've done. So I'm not that's what he's talking about there. You see what I mean? It's like, I'm going to do a seminar and you're really good at promoting it, but you don't really have anything real to say. It's just, you're just rehashing a bunch of bullshit that's not true. It doesn't do anything, you know? Like I see, I'm not going to say a name obviously, but there's this woman and I see her on Facebook and she's like, you know, do my 10-day workshop and we're going to talk about meditation and dream building and like relationship. And it was like this whole list of things, right? And I'm like, that's interesting, because when you talk to my wife, you can't even get your son to stop playing video games. You don't know what the fuck you're doing. but this person's presenting himself and she's like relatively attractive woman, not like crazy, but she's a pretty woman, right? So she's got that angle she can use, and like the nice pictures, and like, and all that. And like, it's all the nice fonts and all this stuff. And it looks really well put together. I mean, she's done a good job with that, but this person doesn't know anything. Mm-hmm. And now you might say, well, then how can I start a clubhouse? Just read the 13 principles. Or take one and then say, why should our starting point be what's best for all? And then when you give your perspective, you're reasoning out to everybody else why it's the case. So you're figuring it out and teaching, but learning it as you go. So you're not making it up. You're like, oh, you're just saying follow these principles. I've already done my due diligence.
Yeah.
We've done our due diligence. You see the results. Now, you take those principles on, sit down for yourself and investigate it. Does this make sense to you? Yes. Okay. Are you the master? You figured it all out? No, but now go start teaching people these things. Don't try to, well, I got to come up with my own set of principles. You don't fucking know because you haven't even used the tool for 7 years to rewrite the way you think about shit. So now you're going to plug into a process and a system. But so does that make sense? What I'm saying to you guys, like you're teaching, but you're not teaching your own fucking made up thing. You're teaching stuff that actually makes sense. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then through that, you're going to learn it even better. And that's what I did. Like by taking the responsibility of supporting others to understand it, I was like, oh, I got to actually know this because they're giving me an objection. And I'm like, well, why does that make sense? Let's look at it. And then I would start trying to explain it just like I did when I was tutoring. Like when I started tutoring, I didn't fucking know math. I didn't know a fucking conic section from a Taylor series. Huh? None of you even got to Taylor series.
That little sound afterwards.
None of you even fucking got to Taylor series, right? But what I'm saying is I didn't know a sine function from I didn't know a sine function from a negative sign.
Yeah, dude. Man, you must have been dumb.
But my point was I was like, I get there and I'm like, and they're like, well, I'm supposed to be able to graph this sine function. I'm like, okay, well, I try to remember what my teachers taught me in school. I'm like, I don't fucking remember that. Let's just open the book.
Yeah.
And I got my techno tutor there. I'm like, put the vocabulary in and we read the book together. They're like, let's just do the exercises. Oh, dude, this makes a lot of sense. I'm like, oh, dude, why did I think this was so fucking hard in school?
Yeah.
Because I didn't fucking even try to study it. I just listened in class. I'm like, I kind of remember. I don't care. I just can't wait for lunch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyways, my point is you have the clubhouse. It's like you're learning as you go, but the principles are solid. They're there. Okay. And, and you're like, you listen to a cool audio from Bernard or on Equaf, or maybe one of Mitch's videos, like he's doing some amazing videos. Want to ask if things, Drake's thing, that thing you and Christine did on relationships, like you listen and you're like, oh guys, really suggest when you go home today, check this out or watch it together. If it's a 10-minute video, that could be the discussion. Now you ask a question based on that. What do you guys think? Like, about what they said, like, but make it a specific question, whatever. Point is, like Asif said, you can reach out to any of us if you want questions on that. But this is exactly what Jesus was doing. Okay.
He was making.
What would Jesus do? What would Jesus do?
We just hit the next level of the podcast. When we're hitting our stride, here we go.
What would Jesus do? He would start a local group. And he would start teaching from principles. And then he would tell those people, now you need to go start a local group and teach from principles. So he wouldn't be like, do you think Jesus would come back? Or even when he first was here or whatever, and be like, guys, only I can do this stuff. It's only me. I'm the God. I am your savior.
Stop. You're doing it again.
I am the savior. Okay. And you need to just listen to exactly what I'm saying and do what I'm saying.
You're so arrogant. Be humble, dude.
Right. Dude, quit walking on water. You're making us look bad. Like Peter starts walking. Peter's like, guys, look, I'm doing it. I'm just like Jesus. And he falls in the water. Like, fucking loser. We knew you couldn't do it. Only Jesus can do it, you idiot.
She's like, no, you're all the Son of God. You're all God. So like, no. You're special. You're special. Because if
Jesus was like, guys, I am so amazing. You can only do what I say. Just do what I say. And then next minute, he's like, all these things that I am doing, you will do and more. And they're like, but I thought you were like the only one. Like, how do you reconcile that? Because what it is that same point of humbleness. It's the same programming. It's the person going, but I'm following Jesus, so now I am righteous. It's like Jesus didn't want followers. Jesus wanted people to walk with him. Like, imagine, you guys ever see Braveheart?
Yeah.
That's it. Mitch?
I only saw that one scene where it's like the battle scene.
But that's the scene I'm talking about.
Okay, yeah.
They're all on a line together.
Have you seen it?
Do you know what I mean? They're all on a line together.
Yeah.
Like, let's go. Right? That's what I'm talking about. Like, all together walking. Not, you know what I mean? Like, one person who's like, I'm the leader, and you have this mass of people in an audience. You can use those things. But imagine if the person on the stage is equal to the people in the audience, what that would be like.
Oh, we already know what that's like. That's what the self-perfected meetup is like.
Ooh,
That's what it should be. And now there's some people who are learning, and they're there to learn, but then you're immediately gonna be like, use these tools, do these points, study these points. I'm giving you guys everything that I've done. I'm not holding anything back. And if you can't handle it, that's okay. You don't have to come. But I'm just telling you everything. So it's like, imagine Jesus laying it out. Like, here's everything I did. Of course, if you didn't believe, no, Jesus was just born perfect and he was amazing. And you can't ever be like, oh, I mean, you're just fucked. Like, what can I say? Like, you're not even interested in changing anything. You just want to be a follower. And that's a program you're going to have to face. Like, do you just want to be a follower? Because if you're a Christian and you're like against all the COVID lockdowns, but you just want to be a follower, you're resonantly, homeopathically, however the fuck you want to say it, holding that program in place for everybody. So all the people are like, what do you mean? I'm just getting the COVID passport. I'm just following, just like you are. What's the problem? My God is the state.
Right.
What's the problem?
Right.
The state is, I can actually see the government. I can't see Jesus.
You know, that's
my reward is in heaven. Well, then just go along with the fucking passport and then don't worry about it. No, but Jesus wouldn't allow me to go along. Oh, so you do want to stand up. Which is it? Do you want to stand up and actually stand and change the system? Or do you just want to like be a follower and your reward is in heaven? Which is it?
You know what's great?
And if that's the case, then you have to equalize yourself.
What's great about that is like people will like they'll have their religion, they know they're following their guru, God, whatever, and then they'll let somebody else who has their religion, they're like, oh, but you know, you're following your God. I get it. You know, they just let them do their thing as well. So it's like that point of the state is my God. That's literally what it's becoming.
That's called everybody gets to have their own opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, but not if it hurts anybody. The problem is you won't be self-honest enough to see how what you're following actually harms people. Because the reason why you follow it is because you want to believe you're a good person when you're not.
Yeah.
So you'll never have that self-honesty of, I'm not actually a good person just because I follow this, because believing something doesn't make you good.
Yeah.
There's literally nothing you can do in this world to make you good, because you have to participate in an abusive system to exist. So what can you do? Change the system so it's not abusive anymore. It's not going to make you good. It's just going to make you here and like not fucking, you know what I mean? Like, it's not about being good, but some people are more, see, they don't want to brag because that means they're not good. Bragging is bad. It's like, you're literally just an electron on a wire going from one part of a battery to another. Like, you're inconsequential.
Yeah. Yeah. That's such a great point. Like, people want to be good, and so they won't do what's best because they just want to be good. Like, and I'm not saying good versus best. I'm saying this idea, this image of what they believe is good is stopping them from doing the things that would actually benefit other people, you know? Like,
it would actually in principle be good, not just what they've in their bias have defined as good. Like,
right.
Like, as long as I don't brag about it, I can murder people. You know what I mean? Like, it's like that. Like, look, you can be a serial killer. Just don't act like you're the best one. I mean, come on. Like, that would fit that person's definition of good. Like, well, no, but thou shalt not kill.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, what about somebody who murders? Well, you can kill that person. You know, it doesn't say that in the 10 Commandments.
Yeah. Or like they'll justify war. Like, you can kill in war. Like as if that makes it better. You know?
Imagine it's like these people where it's like they literally see a soldier and they think of Jesus and they see the flag and it's like all just one big amazing symbol to them. And you're like, Jesus would come back with an AR-15 on a battlefield. Like,
Seriously,
you know what I mean?
though.
It's just people following. They've been brainwashed by their family, by their, it's so funny. I went to that barbecue for that congressman. And in the beginning, they did the Pledge of Allegiance, right? So everyone stands up for that, right? And then they were like, and now we will do the pledge to the Texas flag. And I'm like, there's a pledge to the Texas flag? I don't fucking, and everyone fucking knew it. I'm like, I don't know that. I was like, what is this? But they like all knew it. I'm like, how do you know this? Probably because they got taught it in school or whatever. I don't know why I wasn't taught that. But I literally had never heard it.
Yeah, that's funny. It's like there's a Black anthem, like it's a song that if you go to like a big get together where it's just all Black people, all the older Black people know the song and they'll all sing it. Right?
What does it have to do with America though?
It doesn't. It's like I don't know. Like there was a BET award ceremony where they recognize a bunch of people and they all knew it there. And I was like,
I get that. But what I'm saying is, does it have anything to do with the country?
I don't think so.
So it's interesting when you look at it. And I'm not justifying this bullshit patriotism stuff. I'm just saying like the national anthem is supposed to be about we're all the same country.
Yeah.
But what is the Black anthem about?
We're all the same people.
We're all Black.
Yeah.
And that's why you'll see this clash where it's like, well, why they shouldn't have a Black anthem. And it's not because they're like, well, Black people shouldn't get to do their own thing. It's just like, why are you uniting around the fact that you're Black? Now, the other side of the coin is if you don't, you have no say because white people don't give a shit. They're just like, well, yeah, you didn't get a good education. That's your fault. You're lazy or some shit. And it's like, well, you didn't create a system that actually benefits everybody. Well, that's because they keep voting for Democrats. Like, why are they voting for Democrats? Why didn't you take direct responsibility to make sure everybody was educated, regardless of the color of their skin? But they didn't.
I'm looking at these lyrics. This is interesting.
For the Black
Oh,
one?
you guys are looking it up?
Yeah.
Yeah, lift every voice and sing. That's what I was looking up too.
Mm-hmm. Every voice. Is that including?
Every voice.
Okay.
Your voice too. You can lift your voice.
Cool.
I mean, I'm not saying the same thing bad about the song. I haven't heard it. But my point was just, you see, like there's this debate. You know what I mean? This clash.
Yeah, but it's an irrelevant debate, right? Because at the same time, like we're doing our own thing. We're creating our own thing, and it's not like it's separate from other people. It's just that we see that this system is not including everyone, or it's not equal to everyone, right? And so we're like creating the system that is equal to everyone. Now, I don't think that they have that starting point, right? I think their starting point is we need to just value ourselves, right? And otherwise we're not going to be valued. And like a lot of what happens in those kinds of conversations is just like, we need to pull ourselves up. We need to just look out for ourselves, not
but the system's not giving them a choice. And the reality is, what is understood is that there's a power in the group.
Yeah.
So the problem is, so it's like, I understand why that's occurring. And what's interesting is if white people were to do that, it would be like immediately like, oh, it's a racism thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not justifying it. I'm not saying that Black people shouldn't get together and stand up for themselves. That's a cool thing. But the problem is, if they do that and it becomes popular, what are white people going to do? What are Asian people going to do? And they're all going to stand up as their individual groups and fight with each other. So and again, it's not actually a race thing. Like, that's why self-perfected is here. It's like, we have to stand up and realize, okay, what actually unites us as life? So how do we stand up and create a system so that doesn't matter what the color of your skin is, you have what you need? Do you need different things based on the color of your skin?
Yeah.
Potentially.
Different amounts of sunlight, like different, there are different things that you need different makeup.
So, and like one of the complaints by the cultural Marxists is like, everything is white supremacist. So like makeup is designed for white people, or it's like designed on certain beauty standards that are Eurocentric and so forth, right? Which is true. I saw a really cool video of this guy who I follow who does like videos on music theory. And he had this video called something about music theory being racist. And I was like, that's interesting. So I watched it and he made this point about when you study music theory, like what is music theory? Like if I were to go to take a course on music theory, they're going to start with, Gregorian chant and how the development of musical notation, and they're going to get into Bach and the Western tonal system and chord structures based on that, minor, major, all that kind of stuff. And that's literally music theory. It's the study of Western European composers, essentially.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that's interesting. Because when you think music theory, you're like, and because people will look up on YouTube, like, do producers use music theory? Well, what kind of music theory?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if I want to be a producer, so everything's going to be forced into a certain expression of music. But like, is that what theory is like Indian classical music based on? Or like, Tibetan music or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? And the interesting thing is, by and large, what the Western European mindset is systematize something and then make it dominant. So that's why you're not going to have the other theory. It's not that you can't go study that theory. It's not available anywhere, but it's not going to be at the same level. It just shows you the power of systems. It's not about blaming white people or Europeans or something. It's like the systems are very effective. So how do we create systems that actually include everybody and actually make space for people to have their own preferences and opinions that don't harm, but then also make sure that that's not used to create a tyranny of the majority or the minority, where it's like, let's suppress some people to raise others up. Like the solution to oppression of racial groups is not oppression of racial groups.
Right.
All that's going to do over time is create a point where now the Black people who are in charge are having to stave off attacks from the other races or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not going to change anything. The point is systems that firstly take care of everyone's basic needs. Because and a basic need is vocabulary. It's no less of a basic need than proper nutrition. Proper nutrition is maybe a more immediate need. Do you know what I mean? Like when you come out of the womb, but if a parent has an ineffective vocabulary when they come out of the womb, that's not influencing the kid. So it's just as primary as proper nutrition. That doesn't mean you're going to get on your techno tutor with your baby before you give him some breast milk. Do you know what I'm saying? It's not primary in terms of timing, but it's as essential.
Yeah.
It's as essential because that's going to determine how the child is processing information and how they're processing their environment, and whether they develop survival patterns and so forth. So a lot of these things that we see is responses to trying to survive in a competitive system. Right. So instead of us trying to get together collectively based on skin color or these other political affiliations or whatever, we're getting together based on principles, because these principles are universally applicable, whether you're Black, white, Asian. People always say, I think I've talked about this before, I don't care if you're Black, white, yellow, brown, purple. I'm like, who's purple?
Yeah.
It's almost like it's like a white person going, I don't care if you're Black, white, yellow. Oh, I'm getting uncomfortable. I shouldn't be saying, purple. It's like, you know what I mean? I know that program. It's like, I don't care if you're Black, white, yellow, purple. Like, oh shit, I'm talking about race. I got to make it weird. I got to make it funny.
Yeah.
Like who the fuck? I don't care if you're an alien from outer space. I'm like, there's no aliens from outer space that we need to worry about, guys. Like we need to just focus on Black, white, yellow, brown people. Like, let's just leave it at that. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, well, actually, Asif was blue on one episode, if I remember.
And nobody cares about blue people.
And I know we're going into a whole nother level fucking conversation, but I know we're going to wrap it up soon because we got other meetings and so forth to attend to. But what else, guys? I mean, what else can we say? We don't have an outro for you. We just have commenting,
liking, sharing,
and subscribing.
One thing that's coming up that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yes.
There's a particular gathering on behalf of a certain event called Make Love Real. If I forget where it is or who it is, but
I don't
can
even
Hey,
know
I
someone-
about
hope you
that.
can get there. Anyone in communist Canada?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Sorry. I was like, what are you talking about? But yeah.
Yeah.
legitimately confused.
Do I need to be somewhere in October? That's so soon.
Yeah, I know. It's in
Yeah.
like 2 weeks. We're like, oh,
I got Mayor and Nick here. They were going to come up, but they're having breakfast at the B&B they're staying at. But
Nice.
we'll talk about that another time. But the reason I brought it up is because we were shooting guns and like we have a shotgun and Nick didn't get
At
to
each
shoot
other
his-
or like
nah, a little bit. But Nick was like, I didn't get to shoot it yet. And I was like, well, I'll be back soon. And we're like thinking about how far, it's going to be and everything. It's like very soon, the October thing and then the November thing.
Yeah.
So we're just having fun,
Mhm.
doing our events, doing our clubhouses.
Mitch, can you give us a little bit of insight about what's going to be happening?
it's gonna be the best event that anyone's been to yet.
Getting a little bit of bragging.
Wow, dude, be humble, man.
Yeah, let me just be
Be a little bit more
here.
humble, Mitch.
It's going to
See,
be
it's actually going to be the opposite of humble because it's not going to be on a low level. It's going to be on the highest level of the highest
Okay.
building in the city.
Hey.
Oh.
It's anti-humble, and it's going to be
Take
so
that,
sick.
haters.
So it's like here in Minnesota. I don't know about y'all in the South, but up north here, like Asif knows, all the trees change colors and they turn like really orange and red, and it looks amazing.
What are these trees you speak of?
Trees
Deciduous
changing
trees.
colors.
We need to get Anastasia here to explain.
Dude, that's so funny. You're talking about that coniferous stuff because Max had this rock app and he's like, Cameron, I'm trying to identify if these rocks are sedimentary or metamorphic or what. He knew all the fucking.
That's so
Anyways, that's gonna be awesome. It's gonna
Yeah.
be fun. So it's like when all the leaves are changing and everything.
Yeah, and then we're gonna take you on a tour of the city as well, of like all the places that we like and like where
That'll
we
be cool.
met and all the stuff. So it'll be awesome. It'll be family friendly. We'll be in a big group. We know the right places in town to take people to. So no no need to open carry here. I don't know if you actually can open carry here. Some people open carry
I will
here.
openly carry my child around.
Yes, yeah, openly carry your children. Yeah, and we just have like restaurants, and we'll have like, some get-togethers at the house for certain people and everything. So we have a lot of people coming from out of town, out of country.
How far do you live from the city center?
We live like
Far
35,
enough.
40 minutes, but
Far
we'll
enough.
be at the hotel for a while, and then we'll
It's
all
gonna be fun.
migrate over here.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's gonna be sweet. It's gonna be like this whole next caliber of events because our businesses have done very well. And so it's like you always think about this, like, well, once I have all this money in the bank, then I'll have all this money in the bank. It's like, don't have your money in a bank. Like, go build a business and go put on events and go do things to create more of that. And so it's been cool to look at, like, let's say you had, hypothetically, right, bunch of 50 grand in the bank just sitting there for whatever you wanted. Like, what would we do? Well, I'd throw a really sick event and then get even more people in my community involved in what we're doing, exposed to the principles, exposed to this lifestyle. So that's literally what we're doing. So it's going to be great. And then I think it's going to really catalyze this whole next level for all the other people in our community. So there's a lot of relationships forming, other people getting married, just new people coming in. So it's going to be a really cool point to kind of boost that all to the next level. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And then after the wedding and everything, and after the city tour, the distributors will be hanging out a little bit.
Know it, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. I got my guns. I'm cleaning my guns this weekend. So
Nice. Do you have a shotgun yet?
I don't have a shotgun yet.
I didn't care about shotguns. We got one. It is the best thing ever. So we can talk about that.
308?
We can talk hands down better.
Wow.
Like I'm telling you, I was like not a shotgun guy, but now I'm like, oh dude, I like shotguns. I got one of those things that throws the clay targets. I haven't used
nice.
it yet, but I'm like, no, I want to use it.
Oh,
Yeah.
fuck.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
I'm
not a
excited
fancy
for
one.
it.
It's just like a foot operated one for
Yeah,
like one
yeah,
person.
yeah.
But eventually maybe we'll get the really cool ones. But yeah,
What operator?
Those are
Wow.
I'm
so
just
much
saying they're
fun.
really cool.
Okay.
Those are so
Yeah.
much fun.
So,
Yeah, well, we're gonna have a lot of fun doing all that stuff all weekend. So
yeah, that'd be cool.
Awesome. And then in less than a month from coming back from there, likely,
yeah.
right into Houston.
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 Where are you going to Houston
No,
for?
no. Jefferson.
Texas.
We're going to Texas.
East Texas.
We're good,
All right,
like
fools.
Houston,
Close
Texas.
Close enough. Yeah, we're going to Texas.
It'd be 5 hours away, so I wouldn't go to Houston.
We're going to Texas.
You're like, oh shit,
and
I
then we're
changed
going
my
to get
flight.
back on a plane. And then
We're going to Houston for a bit, then we're going to go to Cameron's place in East Texas.
So yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. And so
Oh yeah.
really, like we're 2021, baby. Like, thank you. Shout out COVID-19 for accelerating everything, being our biggest hype man, to really make things happen. I just like to say I'm excited for COVID 2022, COVID 22. I really hope that there's another one coming, so that will take things to a whole other level.
You just got our algorithm all twisted up on this podcast.
Yeah.
No one is ever going to see this episode.
I thought it was just 2 more weeks of mandates, and then everything was going to be okay.
Yeah.
I like how
I'm
people use
excited
like
for
all
the
these
next
different
2
words.
weeks.
Like they'll be like, well, this one guy I listen to, he calls it COVID-AIDS. So it's like he's not saying COVID. One person says like for the vaccine, he says the sheep's milk. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, there's a group, a Facebook group that kept getting taken down of these women who were sharing about their reactions to the vaccine. They would say,
Sheep's milk.
they would say, I just had a dance with Maxine instead
Oh wow.
of getting the vaccine. I just had a
Yeah,
dance
yeah.
with Maxine. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one. All right.
Cool.
All right.
See you later, guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
See you next week.
Well, bye.
See ya.